So, that reading from Luke 11, verse 37 to the end. What a reading. I mean, Jesus really let rip, didn't he? This happens just after Jesus has been teaching a huge crowd. And he's been talking about, lamps being a light to your feet and all this lovely, warm, fuzzy stuff. And this Pharisee comes up to him and clearly he sees Jesus as someone worthy of note. So he invites him round to his house for dinner. And Jesus goes. And he sits straight down at the table, ready to eat. And the Pharisee's like, oh. Because the accepted practice was when you went in, you washed your hands and everything before you sat down to eat. And Jesus didn't do that. He just went straight in, sat down by the table and waited. Now, clearly he noticed that the Pharisee was a little taken aback. And he just starts going on at him. And he points out that the Pharisees, at the time, they were like the church leaders, the keepers of the law. These were the people that everyone went to and said, oh, what does this mean? And what should I do in this situation? But Jesus sits there and he just starts saying, you're rotten. You're scumbags. You are just not very nice people. He challenges them on everything they do. He says you're tithing, so you're taking a tenth of everything and giving it to God, blah, blah, blah. But you're not doing anything for the people. You're not going out, you're not helping anyone, you're not supporting anyone. You're imposing rules on people and then not giving them any help or any support. Now, clearly that took some guts. After all, he was a guest in this person's house. And he's surrounded by people, probably people of note, that have studied the religion, studied the text, studied the prophets. And he doesn't stop there. He said, you were given the key of knowledge. Now, to my mind, he's talking about the fact that A, they were taught to read, and B, they've had access to all the texts, and they've read all the prophets, and they've read the Torah, they've read the laws. And so they've been given the opportunity to learn a great deal. But he says, instead of learning, what you've done is you've just thrown the key away. You're not letting anybody else get any knowledge from it, and you're not doing it. And that's not surprising, really. A lot of people, when they get into positions of great power, they start to think about how do they retain that position. And often they lose their way. They forget what put them there in the first place. Why they started on that path. But he doesn't stop there. He carries on and he says, you're frauds. All you're interested in is adulation. You just want the biggest seat at any party. You just want people fawning all over you. Then you're enjoying the adulation. So how do they react? These knowledgeable people, these religious scholars, these church leaders, these pillars of the community, do they sit down and have a little chat and say, oh, actually, I think he's got a point there. We should probably do something. Let's put it right. No, of course not. They sit down and they start to plot how to get rid of him, how to drag him down using his own words, how to discredit him. And this point kind of resonates. And I think, well, if anyone thinks the Bible's not relevant, just read that and look at today. Look at all the new rules and regulations in today in every walk of life. And how people in certain positions spend all their time trying to covering their own bottoms rather than putting things right. It kind of sounds familiar. But that is how relevant the Bible is. Even back then, it's telling us that it's wrong. That people shouldn't just be concentrating on protecting their own positions. Jesus stood up and he challenged them on it. He called them out and he said, you're not doing your job. You're supposed to be helping people. You're supposed to be supporting the community. You're supposed to be looking after people less fortunate than you. And all you're doing is going to big parties, sitting there and going, oh, look at me. And that takes great courage. For a little Jewish bloke that's only been around, sort of in the public eye for a very short time, to stand up in a bigwig's house and say, actually, no offence, mate, but you're rubbish. It takes a lot of courage. And that kind of brings us up to today. And this is why I believe the Bible is so relevant. It teaches teaches us these lessons so that we don't make the same mistakes. It's there, all the knowledge, all the expertise of years and years is just sitting there. And today it's up to us. It's up to us to be Jesus, if you like. It's up to us that if you think something's wrong, if something inside you says, oh no, that's not right, it's up to us to actually challenge it, to say something. Now, I'm not suggesting you go around to someone's house, get invited to dinner and stand up and say, actually, mate, your job sucks. That's not what I'm saying. But if something is inherently wrong, talk to someone about it. Don't keep quiet. And I think that's the message here, is don't keep quiet. Because the longer you keep quiet, the more it happens. So you have to challenge it. You have to speak up. Talk to people about it. And for me, a perfect example of this was General Conference. When a coloured lady in a mobility scooter went up the front of General Conference. That's in front of all these people. There's over 1,000 people there. And she just grabbed a microphone and she said, actually, what's going on is not right. It's upsetting me. The church, the denomination I love, is fighting. And that is upsetting. At that moment, in that place, she was Jesus to every single person there. She was speaking with God's voice when no one else had the courage to do so. A little old coloured lady in a mobility scooter. So you don't have to be a religious scholar, you don't have to be a church leader, you don't have to be a big wig to actually stand up and say those things, to be Jesus for the people around you. Yes, it takes courage. Yes, it takes a little bit of oomph to stand up and say, actually, that's wrong. But if you know in your heart it's the right thing to do, then you should do it. Just because someone has studied the Bible, or studied religion, just because somebody has spent years gaining a position of power or a superior position in a denomination, a church, an organisation, even a company, it doesn't make them right. It doesn't even make them a good person. It's their actions that will do that. It's their actions that will show who they are, what sort of person they are. And this is what Jesus was calling the Pharisees out about. He was saying, yes, you say all the right things. Yes, you're getting people into the synagogue. But what are you doing? He was calling them out individually. What are you doing? And so, I think that what this story teaches us is that it's down to us as individuals to be Jesus for other people. To have that courage just to say, that's wrong. But also that it's on us to go out and help people. Not just to come to church, put money into the collection, have a good time. Not just to pray and sing. But to show with our actions God's love. Because Jesus was quite clear here. You find loopholes to get around showing God's love. Now, to me, the most obvious loopholes are, I'm too busy, I'm too busy doing this for the church. I don't have time to go out and help a homeless person find a sleeping bag, Oh, I'm too busy doing this, I'm too busy doing that. Oh, I've got such a full life. Those are the sort of loopholes I think he's talking about here. Because the Pharisees were in charge and they were enjoying that power. So my final word on this really is that as we go forward, from now on, I just want everyone to think about those moments when perhaps they should have done something, or perhaps they think they might have said something. But also, keep an eye open for an opportunity. An opportunity to actually be Jesus to someone. And you may think, that never happens to me. I never get those opportunities. But actually, if you walk down the road and you see a homeless guy sat on a sleeping bag or sat in the corner looking a bit sad, just say good morning. Ask him how he is. You will actually find that they're amazed, A, you're talking to them, and very happy that someone actually gives a monkeys about how they are. That is how easy it is to be Jesus to someone.